Hello, everyone. Welcome to a Ball Over Passion podcast. My name is Willow. Today we are joined by CK,
Yeah.
George,
Hey guys.
Z,
So,
and our two favourite guests, Wave and Nom.
Hey guys.
Hello, guys.
Today we're going to be looking into a deep dive of Arsenal's new shot stopper, Aaron Ramsdale. Wave, I'm going to come to you first, mate. What's your first thoughts on him?
Well, initially, I'll say exactly what I thought. My opinion on him is quite varied, but initially, I wasn't too over the moon with the signing, only because I watched a lot of football last season, and obviously he was part of one of the worst Premier League sides I remember in a while. And obviously, you can expect a team who's facing so many shots, it's not going to look too flattering on the goalkeeper. And I mean, I've known him from his Bournemouth days, and I thought he was quite a bright young talent at the time. But I'm not sure the move to Sheffield put him in a good light, really. And I mean, I kind of left last season thinking this is one of the worst keepers in the league. So obviously, when we were linked with him, it didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as the link started getting a bit more serious with us, I did think to myself, right, I'm going to have to start liking this guy because he's going to become a gooner. So I better start looking for some positives. But initially, my main gripes with him were he's quite young. Okay, we'll give him that. But
Yeah.
watching him for Sheffield, he seemed a bit rash in his decision making, and I think it's so important as a goalkeeper to have your decision making on point, because it is literally a difference between a world class keeper and someone like Almunia. And I don't want to see another Almunia at the club. We all saw Kepa. You know, you can see he's got something in him to be a good keeper, but his decision making is what lets him down and ultimately turned him from a £72 million keeper to a £5 million keeper. I'm not even sure I'd pay that much for Kepa. You just don't want a keeper like that in your team at all because it will lose you games. Now, we can chalk that down to his age. So it's something that maybe he'll get better with at time. Maybe, hopefully, because he plays for us now. So I hope he does. But I think the age thing is also an issue for me because I thought, obviously, we needed to upgrade on Leno. I think we need to upgrade on Leno, personally. I'm sure a few other of you guys agree too. Personally, I thought that if we need to upgrade on Leno, we need someone who's going to walk into the team straight away. And I didn't expect us to sign a 23-year-old keeper to do that. A club like Arsenal, I would have thought we would have maybe signed someone a bit more established and a bit more proven. So once I kind of got around the whole, okay, maybe we can coach this decision making out of him, this rashness out of him, maybe his age profile, not even his age profile. We all know that goalkeepers mature later on, but maybe he wouldn't become what we need him to be in quick enough time.
Yeah.
So
you're anxious about the signing.
Yeah, I'm anxious about the signing, but at the same time, seeing him play against West Brom kind of made me feel a little bit more positive. Now, I'm not going to judge him on one game the same way if he had a howler. I'll try not to judge him on one game. But I did see a lot of positives, and one of the positives that I did see was the fact that his distribution is night and day in comparison to Leno's. And actually, my worry of him not being ready to walk into the team was dispelled a little bit, because even if he does make the shot stopping errors, having the ability to build up so much more efficiently and a higher quality than Leno is invaluable for our team at the moment. and
Yeah.
I kind of almost feel like it's worth the risk because I'm sick of watching Leno squander chances and mess up our build up because he can't play football like with the ball at his feet.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of fans are anxious about the sign. I think a lot of fans are in the same boat as you, but let's hope this video can help, a bit more confidence in Aaron. And I think with that, I think we'll move on to George and CK on Aaron Ramsdale's distribution.
So, yeah, I mean, a lot's been made about what his distribution is like. And I think if you do take a deep dive into him, I think one of the key things is that he has a very decent passing range. That's one that's kind of not disputed. I think the first graphic that we've gone up here is just going to take a look at kind of Sheffield. So what people may remember from last season in terms of what we might see. And it's very clear that Sheffield's tactical instruction was to go long majority of the time. There isn't too much this graphic will necessarily show you more in the line that his passing range was varied. It won't really tell you much about the quality unless you have a more deeper dive into the video. But one thing that you can clearly see is that he's comfortable going from a different array of angles. He's absolutely able to pass long and with fairly good accuracy long in different areas. It's not as though he's restricted to one side of the pitch or another side of the pitch. So in terms of his long passing accuracy, it's quite varied, but it's quite consistent between the lines. So that's one thing that you see with Sheffield. But if we go back to another infographic where we're going to talk about now his time at Bournemouth, which was a lot more spread in terms of what he was asked to do. His short game was a lot more required in terms of their tactics. So he was asked to go short quite a little bit. As you can see here, his major kicking kind of forte was long, but he also displayed a lot more time in short between the line passes into that first phase of play. And look, we've seen this problem with Leno consistently in terms of his ability to find men and mainly beat the press from the first phase. And I think Aaron's done that amazingly, to be honest with you. I don't think people understand that when you look at Aaron Ramsdale, to really break down the specific elite trait that he has is mainly this elite clip ball wide. Why is that important? Well, it's the most difficult skill in a passing range sense from a goalkeeper to master. The clip ball wide is exactly what won Chelsea the Champions League with Mendy. It's what's continued to get them out of pressure in terms of any kind of counter press that you may have and a team that focuses on build-up. In terms of passing ranges, he absolutely has the fire between the lines. In fact, we saw it even for us as early as his last appearance in terms of West Brom, finding a man, I think, deep in his own half, roughly around the 25-yard mark. And, he has that when we look at his West Brom appearance here. So it's really quite clear that he's got a wide passing range. The one critique I would have is I don't think he finds people between the lines as consistently yet, but he certainly has it in his locker, and we've seen it in full flesh. The one thing he absolutely has on command, though, is clip balls wide. And for me, the biggest reason why that's important, not only is it the most difficult skill when you're looking at passing range for a goalkeeper, but when you're looking at Arsenal's build-up structure that's focused on wide overloads and not on central overloads, that elite ball clipped wide is the first pass that typically we do to progress up the pitch. We don't look to go through the middle. And so this weakness, which again, it's a weakness, it's something he can improve on in consistency, but he certainly has it. And so for me, I really don't understand the issue that fans had that they felt as though he wasn't a good ball playing keeper, because in my opinion, I hope these statistics show you that in terms of going long, going deep, it's not a matter of him being restricted in ability. It was what he was asked to do from coaches. And when we look at radars, it's another commentary about looking at the tactics of a team. But if you're looking at Aaron specifically, when you do tactically analyze him, he's got the hardest pass, in my opinion, that a goalkeeper has to have locked, and he can repeat it on command, which is absolutely essential for us beating presses. And especially when you look at a 3-4-1-2 pressing structure that was very evident in Man City, by the way, that seems to be the way that we're pressing. And it's how you're going to transition from a 3-2-5 to the 2-3-5 that we've talked about here on this channel quite a lot. So what becomes key is if you're going to beat that first line of defense, it's going to be through a clip ball, not necessarily always through the center. And if that's something that he has in his locker, and it's not like you have to teach him that, it becomes very easy for a coach to use this as a very good base in terms of coaching his ball playing ability. So yeah, I was very, very impressed when I looked at this. It was probably his absolute strong point when I look at kind of, if I were to describe Aaron his ball playing was really the clip ball wide. That's what he's got on command.
Yes, definitely. CK, you did a lot of research into Ramsdale and you done an amazing comp on him. What's your thoughts on this?
Well, for me, obviously I did a comp on him on it. I watched a lot of his football, Wimbledon, under 21s England, under 19 England, and obviously Bournemouth and Sheffield. And he's even spoke about himself from the Bournemouth days. Obviously, he was instructed by Eddie Howe to go short. They wanted to build up from the back. So a lot of his passes, as you can see, were more short and wide to support their build-up shape. And that refined his short passing, because in Wimbledon, it was more route one, as most teams in the League 1 and 2 are. They're all route one. And so that was where he got a bit better at his direct passing. But here in Bournemouth, you can see that he refined his ability to play in goal for a team that wanted to keep the ball. Because obviously, we've seen with Leno that a keeper who's slow with his decisions and inaccurate with his passes struggles, especially short. And we've seen problems that have caused with him not being able to pass short in Bournemouth. And then in Sheffield, you see a change in philosophy where he's not doing these short passes all the time anymore, and he's way more direct into the striker. So that improved his long balls and his balls centrally, because he's always had the ability to play a ball into the right back or the left back, and it's a great ability to have. He's had it since he was 18, 19. So Sheffield, the change in philosophy at Sheffield has really helped him to increase his ability to play the balls, sometimes in behind the striker in the defence, because from a goal kick there's no offsides anymore. But yeah, like he himself has noticed the change in philosophy and the improvement is done on him. And last but not least, we saw him for us against West Brom, and a lot of people were impressed with his pass to Odegaard between the lines.
Yes, definitely.
Across the floor for like 30-yard pass between the lines, and he's done that with Bournemouth and Sheffield, more so Sheffield, because it's meant to go direct down the middle. But yeah, he, as you can see, he is very good on the ball. Not as good as the elite like Edison, but he is good on the ball and will improve us from Leno.
Well, I think the big thing that I wanted just to add there, like, Chris, in terms of him reaching the potential to maybe meet an Ederson, why I'm very confident is because of the type of passes he struggles with versus the ones he has in his locker, absolutely. And so while he might struggle with verticality or range at times, he has it in the locker. But he consistently produce a wide clip ball means that you can kind of project that if you've got the hardest skill in your locker, you'd assume that some of the coaching abilities that he does struggle with are easily coachable, mainly a system. And I'm very interested to see what he looks like with more options, because remember, he's done this for teams that don't have options between lines. Even Bournemouth, no matter that they have a little bit more of a short-term philosophy, they didn't surround their keeper in the way that we do. And we do know that Arsenal and, Mikel, despite many people's concerns, have a great build-up structure. And so I'm very interested to see, can he exploit this perceived needs improvement on the passing range a lot more with more options between the lines.
Yeah. Definitely. I'm hoping, just showing these statistics, you boys talking about it, that it'll help fans like Wave and all of us anxious fans to kind of calm us down, because it's such an integral part to our play, the distribution. So I think this is going to be really
and
good.
At every club, sorry to cut you off, but at every club he's been on, they all the fans love him, and all the players really rate his distribution. Like even Ryan Brewster came out saying he's great on the ball, and he used to be a midfielder, and on the ball he plays like a midfielder. So everywhere he's gone, he's got kudos for his ability on the ball, and we've seen already how that can help us against a team like West Brom.
Yeah, and I think just to wrap up on the passing range segment of this, is the biggest thing that you see with Aaron Ramsdale is quick decision making. And we'll get into like general decision making, I'm sure, later in the video with the other lads. But the biggest thing is he releases the ball quickly. It's very Emmy-like in the sense that he is able to not hesitate in terms of passing the ball. And this is why I predict us to have a very good career with him in terms of his ball playing, because Emmy, in my opinion, didn't have the greatest passing range. What Emmy was amazing at was releasing the ball quickly. And he did have an ability to go long, but he saw it quick. And that was why it was so successful. Aaron has that trait in abundance. It's not just the clip ball, but he will pass you to the ball when it's on. He won't wait 2 or 3 seconds. We won't see a Mari incident back in Brentford where we're holding on to the ball and we fire it to him late. That will not happen with Aaron. He will consistently show you to make quick decision makings, to play the pass that's on. And of course, if it's out wide, he'll do it with aplomb.
Yeah, definitely. I think you boys have explained that really well. And now we know that Aaron Ramsdale's distribution is good. I think we move on to how he is in 1v1s and shot stopping. So on to Norman Z.
Yeah, I'll start this bit. I think I was like Wave, to be honest. I think when we first got linked, so I understand the sentiment that Wave's going through in regards to. I think a lot of fans did. I think that's why a lot of fans were anxious in that West Brom performance, because there was a lot hinging on that. I think Ramsdale alluded that he was anxious as well, because there was a lot of, let's just say, not complimentary comments when he joined the club, and I think he was taken aback by how the Wave support backed him after that game. I think, look, Wave is right. Sometimes people will say, "Well, guys, you're producing a podcast today. Are you trying to say that this kid has no faults, and he's some sort of the Messiah?" And the truth is, he isn't the Messiah per se, because even though we just talked about the distribution, he still needs some work into understanding our system and how we're going to set up. And so I think we still should urge patience. And I think Wave was sort of alluding to that. When you're a young goalkeeper, you're not going to reach your potential overnight, and it's definitely not going to happen within that season. I think this year, I think he could improve the team, but I don't necessarily mean that he'll reach his potential, right? So that's kind of exciting, but it's also important, I think, that we should be honest about where we think there is still room for improvement. And what was interesting for me, as George and some of you guys will know, is that I've coached, but one of the hardest things to do when you're coaching is to actually really understand goalkeepers in detail. And so sometimes, obviously in professional clubs, as we see, we've got goalkeeping coaches and even analysts who can analyze goalkeepers, because the requirements for goalkeepers are different from outfield players. And I have to give credit, and this is really important. I mean, if you guys haven't seen this, FK does a latte firm, and he did an excellent pod with a goalkeeping coach, and I can't remember his name, so I'm hoping that someone will go and find out, because I want to give
John
credit
Harrison.
to the guy. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he was brilliant when he came on, because he really, I loved listening to him, and I loved listening to how excited he was actually generally. But he didn't gloss over Ramsdale, because I think it's really important to talk about where he still has issues. Now, one of the things that he was really excited about, and I think he explained this in the video clip, and I'm sort of paraphrasing some of the points that he's made. And I thought this infographic was brilliant because it helped me to understand. He said that during close range one-on-ones, this guy is elite. And if you can look at this infographic there, you can see he's well above the average for a goalkeeper in terms of one-on-ones when it's within the 6-yard box and like from corners, etc. He has an insane ability to be able to make himself look big and to be able to get a part of his body onto a shot from close distance. He felt that he was similar. Again, he was above average when it was the medium one-on-ones. So let's say within, like, a player was approaching the penalty box, and he's able to sort of make himself big and choose. The problem where he felt he had more development work, and this is what maybe Wave has seen, is that he had problems when it came to long range one versus ones, where he had time on his hands and he didn't know, what to do. So he's got the instincts of an excellently, like a really talented goalkeeper. But when he's left to think a little too much, he isn't sure about what to do, and sometimes makes the wrong decisions. And what was interesting was seeing a few clips that he chose to illustrate why that figure is below the average. But what was exciting about his analysis was that he talked about the scope, that those traits are coachable when it comes to long range one-on-ones, as opposed to if you don't have the natural ability in your close range one-on-ones, it's very difficult to coach those instant reactions. So we've seen that before. Like, I would argue, I'm not sure if Kepa is great at close range one-on-ones. I don't have the figures, but that's just from my eye test. And maybe he has issues with being able to see long range shots, etc. So sometimes, goalkeepers will have different natural traits, and he feels like the ones that are natural are really exciting, and the ones that can be coachable are still there and that could be sort of reached, and that's where his potential is. So that's another thing I think impressed me, because I think if you're going to play a high line like we are, and I don't want to go too much into tactics, but if we play a high line, his ability to sweep and understand one-on-one situations are going to be really important. Because if we get those tactics right, then the goalkeeper won't be seeing a high volume in terms of shots. So his decision making and one-on-ones will be critical in key moments in the game. So I think this is why I urged caution when I was talking in Spaces and other podcasts, etc., that we need to give him time for him to understand our system, for him to be coached properly, because I think those aspects are coachable. We've seen, and I think we've seen some negative press about our goalkeeping coach. Maybe he's not best at picking the recruit. And remember, he wasn't the one who personally recommended Ramsdale, because I don't think he's worked with Ramsdale. That was made clear. So I know I don't want to slant him, but one thing nobody can argue is that Inaki Kana, without a doubt, improved both Martinez and Leno in terms of their distribution and their tactical awareness in the first phase compared to what they both were like. Now, I know earlier on we said like we want Leno replaced, and I think Wade was reiterating that to replace Leno, he has to be able to show that he can compete with him first before I feel like he can take that role. So I think there is areas that we should be concerned about, but I think honestly there are some really exciting things that we probably don't understand because we aren't goalkeeping coaches who analyze goalkeepers in terms of their natural ability. It's very easy for us to make judgments like any casual fan in terms of watching a goalkeeper and not understanding the dynamics at play. Okay.
Thank you for that, Nom. Z, what's your thoughts on this, mate?
Yeah, sure. I mean, to be fair, look, I think I was probably one of the most positive ones on Leno. Not on Leno, on Ramsdale. We already started on a bad point, but yeah, I was really excited when we were linked with Ramsdale, just purely because I've watched him, for Bournemouth as well, and I've watched him for Sheffield United, and I feel like people were looking at. We're probably focusing more on his negatives than his positives, and this is where I feel like everybody's analysis of him was completely wrong. For example, when he was at Bournemouth, he was known to be one of the best shot stoppers, one of the best under 22 shot stoppers in the top 5 leagues, and I think that is no mean feat because if you're up there in terms of statistics, it means you are doing something right. And one thing that I realized that when I've watched him is that his shot stopping is quite unique in the sense that I feel like he is someone that already knows where the ball is going to go before the shot is even made, and that's and to be fair, if you look at him, he's not the tallest in height. He's 6'2" or 6'1" or 6'2", but because of his reading of the game and reading of the shots, he is able to be in the best placed position to save those shots. So I feel like he's in terms of close one-on-one shots, he's very, very good, and I feel like very instinctual as well. Maybe again he can improve on his long shot stopping, and that could be purely based on the team as well that he plays for. For example, Sheffield United, they faced a lot of shots, and sometimes when you face the amount of shots that you do, it kind of decreases the volume of shots that you save as well. And he didn't really have those difficulties that he had at Sheffield United whilst he was at Bournemouth. So I think that is something that you do need to consider. But overall, like I said, I feel like shot stopping wise, I don't think we should be worrying a bit too much. The only thing I would worry about him would be his concentration. Really, I feel like he does sometimes tend to do something like that's very erratic. I think some people describe him as having a bozo gene, and I do feel like because he's quite young, he does probably have that in him right now, and I think that needs to be eradicated from him in the next couple of years for him to refine himself as an established keeper for Arsenal. But for now, I mean, look, you are a work in progress, but he's better than what we have for sure.
And I think the big thing that I also wanted to get across is that while his decision making is maybe not consistent, he's very brave off his line and he's not hesitant. For me, that's a huge thing too. I think when you look at decision making, while it's understandable that a 23-year-old goalkeeper may not have the greatest decision making at the time, but for me, the authority in terms of claiming when to go out and ensuring that you do go out is probably the most important thing, because I can't really coach that in a youngster. they're not brave or they're not quick off their line or able to do it, then it becomes very difficult to coach as an instinct. And, you know, when you're looking at a team that's likely to be defending on the halfway line, sure, we can start to worry about his inconsistent decision making. But again, he's 23. I think the biggest thing is that he's brave and he's quick off his line, which is very consistent between Bournemouth and Sheffield. He's always quick off, and he's very brave to claim crosses as well as coming in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think, you know, what you got to look at as well is you got to compare him to kind of what we've got in Burnt Leno, and I think, you know, the difference what we're going to make. You kind of look at like an Arteta team and what does Arteta want to do and how he builds out from the back. And I think, you know, we've got a lot of graphs here which do show Leno v Ramsdale, and Leno Ramsdale wins on, as you can see here. You know, Ramsdale wins on all of these. You know, the kind of the distance from his pass. You already saw that against West Brom, that pass he done into Odegaard, that how far that was and how it broke the line, and we went and quick counter attack straight from that, and how imperative that's going to be to us. Same with his goal kicks as well. We can get it a lot longer, so you know we can actually win headers up there as well. He gets a lot more accuracy on them. What about George? What do you think, mate?
Well, yeah, well, that was the last thing too. Like when I was scouting him, and a lot of people were questioning, was, you know, is he good at claiming crosses? It was absolutely a strength of mine. I didn't understand when people were saying that they weren't. I mean, in terms of his cross stopping percentage, you can see that he's better than Leno. But one of the immediate things that stood out for me is this is a chatty keeper. This is somebody that claims authority in his box, and he absolutely can kind of claim crosses very well. And, you know, I think that's one of Burnt's biggest weaknesses. In fact, when you look at Burnt Leno, Ramsdale is the antithesis of everything that he's not. He claims crosses with aplomb. He has an excellent passing range. He doesn't hesitate. Whereas I would argue maybe his shot stopping, while not horrible, and as we've explained in the past, that's maybe one of the areas he may need work on. Maybe he's inconsistent in decision making, but these fundamentals about claiming crosses, elite clip balls wide, these are vital to success in the Premier League. And so I just wanted to maybe calm some fears about having a chatty keeper, what that means for you in the defensive line, something I don't think Burnt does. And, you know, I think you can talk about these intangibles for goalkeepers because they're very different from anywhere else on the pitch. They're alone. They really are. They don't depend on other people. So the idea that somebody is brave, the idea that somebody's come back from 2 relegation sides to still perform, I do think speaks large to his mentality, which is very critical for a goalkeeper, that he keeps his head in tough situations. So for me, the biggest thing I think when you look on this infograph, while he definitely has longer passes in terms of length and, you know, from goal kicks and whatnot, the big thing was the cross percentage for me, because he absolutely claims crosses very well. In fact, it's one of his strengths.
I mean, speaking about mentality quickly, one thing that I was actually quite impressed with was the fact that he got dogs abuse when, you know, he was pretty much announced he was coming to Arsenal, or even when we were linked with him. There was loads of negativity about it, and I don't doubt that he read that. The fact that he saw that and said, you know what, put it to one side, come up against West Brom, and he was shaky a little bit at the beginning for the first 5 to 10 minutes, but you know that could have just been attributed to first game nerves for a massive club. You know what I mean? It's normal. But after that, he looked really assured, and I thought, right, this kid is 23 and he's probably read all the abuse, probably feels unwanted. And you know what? Actually, let's give some credit to our fans as well, because I think a lot of fans kind of gave him positivity back as well. It wasn't just all negativity, but you know, it must be hard reading the bad comments. But he kind of brushed it to one side and performed really well. So I think it does speak volumes about his mentality, like you were saying, George.
Yeah, he kind of alluded to it when he was talking in his post-match interview, that he was really surprised of how the away fans really reacted to him, because he didn't expect the type of reaction, because of he had to close his comments on Instagram because of our fans attacking him. So he definitely probably saw a difference between our away match going fans and online fans.
But you know what? When I saw him close his comments as well, I didn't even think it was like oh no, I can't take this abuse. It was more like a shut up, you lot kind of thing. You know what I mean? I'm gonna close my comments and I'm gonna get on with my job and I'm gonna show you guys what I can do, kind of thing. And I think that's exactly what he done. And I was right to think that, because that's exactly what he showed to me with that performance.
Can I add something as well, guys, about what George said about communication? I think I posted on my timeline on Twitter a clip I got when I was doing my research on him. Sheffield United mic'd up, you know, during the pandemic, they used to mic up clubs. they mic'd him up. And what impressed me was he was constantly encouraging his defenders or criticizing them if they were doing things wrong. And I feel like Leno doesn't do that unless there's a mistake or something's gone wrong, and that's too late to communicate. And
I feel like
the
Leno
big
doesn't even
difference-
speak to himself.
Yeah,
He doesn't even have that internal monologue to himself sometimes.
No, he doesn't. And I think Ramsdale, you see him sort of talk to himself, like psych himself up. And the other thing I think
against Chelsea.
Yeah, and I think the other thing was that if a lot of our fan base hark on about how good Martinez was and pine on how they would love to have him back at the club. Martinez, if he was good at anything apart from his passing and shot stopping, he was an excellent communicator. And I think that's one thing that we can definitely give him, because I think it's huge for our defenders, because it adds a layer of confidence, instruction, and a sort of an awareness of their environment, right? And when you're playing the kind of football we've been asking our players to play, you need the goalkeeper to play a really critical role in that communication, right? And I think that's a massive positive.
I think just to go back as well, just to finish off the crossing segments, just to move into, I think you got to also look at how it complements our players. Like Ben White, we've just brought in a £50 million defender. He's very good at a lot of things, bringing out the ball, his pace. But one of his weaknesses is aerial duels. And I think someone like Ramsdale coming in and being so secure in that, I think is very, very good compared to a lot of other goalkeepers as well, the young goalkeepers, how he comes up for crossing. He's one of the best on it statistically. So I think that really does help when you can actually have a goalkeeper that can claim crosses. As Nom, you said with the communication, how it reassures a defence, knowing that your keeper can actually get you out of bad situations in the air is so important as well. But have we got any other last thoughts about Aaron Ramsdale?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I just wanted to maybe conclude personally what I felt were his strengths, what I felt were his weaknesses. So in terms of his passing range, he has got a great passing range. I think he struggles verticality and maybe with the range itself, but he is excellent with the clip balls wide. It's absolutely on point every time. In terms of when I look at him, he's constantly able to claim crosses. Aaron's really good at that. So I feel as though it relieves pressure off of, the defensive line. And in terms of his shot stopping, I don't think it's as bad as what people make out. In fact, one of the biggest things he might need to work on is his consistency of decision making, not the fact that he doesn't do it. He's very quick in making decisions. It may not be always the right one, but he's very quick. And for me, that combined with his bravery and his talkative nature about claiming the box makes me think we have got ourselves a very, very, very good goalkeeper that for the future could be something very special. I also think it's worth noting that he's England's #1 or planned #1, and that has been for a while. It hasn't just been Bournemouth, Sheffield, his time at Wimbledon. People have loved this kid, and they've loved him for a reason. And all the great goalkeeping coaches constantly cite that they believe that Aaron Ramsdale is going to have a very big future. So combining with all the statistics, my personal eye test about what I feel about the signing, I think this bodes well, and it doesn't make sense to look at the finished article at 23. But I think you can look here and see that he is elite at the hardest skills, I would maybe summarize, which bodes well for looking at realizing his potential.
Yeah, I'd also like to say something, because obviously I opened up with how I'm not going to say negative feelings towards him, but like my gripes with what could happen. But to be honest, as you were saying, George, it's not that his decision making is awful. It is that it's inconsistent, but it's something that happens at his age, and I think it's kind of unfair as well. Like, I was kind of thinking about it. It's kind of unfair for me to blame his decision making when our current keeper also doesn't have good decision making, and Aaron Ramsdale, he's got so much more to his game. So I do think he's an improvement. Maybe just initially I thought there was going to be a different kind of improvement. Maybe slightly more, but then I also understand that we're within constraints, and also the guys that are doing the job that we're not doing probably have a lot more stats and a lot more insight than we do, and we can't know their exact decision, but just got to trust that they're doing the right thing.
I think my final thoughts on it is just I try and compare it to kind of what Man City did. They had Joe Hart, he was a good goalkeeper. He won the league at Man City beforehand, and he was a good shot stopper. But when Pep came in, he needed a keeper that could play out from the back, was a lot calmer, and it made such a difference. Even though it was Claudio Bravo first, and his shot stopping wasn't good, so that actually did cost them points. And I think Ramsdale is a better shot stopper than what Claudio Bravo was when he was up Man City. But just from how Claudio Bravo could play out from the back and how he could keep the defenders reassured with not giving them dodgy passes, it added points to their board and helped them with another title challenge. And since they got Edison, who is a shot stopper and can pass up from the back, he's so integral to them winning them leagues. So having a goalkeeper like Ramsdale, who is good at passing out from the back and who can improve, he's only 23, I think it is so good for us into the future. Nom, have you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, my final thoughts are that even the most skeptical fan has to admit that our goalkeeping coach, when he came in, made an impact on Leno and Martinez. I think the problem why we saw Leno drop off is because Martinez left the scene and he doesn't have the competition. The minimum that you can expect from Ramsdale is that he's going to push Leno, and I think you can already see it a little bit since that West Brom game, that Leno has had to be on his toes again, and I think that is key for squad dynamics. Whether we think Ramsdale will take over, by December or before then, there's been talks about people saying put him in at Norwich. You have to understand the psychological effect it'll have on a goalkeeper who's been playing below what we know he can do.
Yeah.
So I think the long-term dynamics of the whole squad are affected by his purchase in a positive way. And I think his negatives are all what I would say is coachable. So the way you manage that risk that you always have with any transfer is looking at what you can actually add to him and actually improve him by, as opposed to not just looking at his strengths. And I think that's the reason why they went so confidently and bid and were insistent on taking him beyond any other goalkeeper, because they could see the upside of what he could become when he's coached properly.
CK, mate, have you got any final thoughts?
Yeah, for me, it's that obviously he's still young, 23, especially for a keeper, and his experience for a keeper of that age. He has 75 Premier League appearances, which is like 2 full seasons basically. So his experience will do well for him at this age, and I just think for my overview for him is that the word mature. I think in most aspects he's really mature for his age, especially for a keeper and for a player in general. But I think fans should maybe give him time, because when his name first got brought up, even me, I really didn't want him until I really looked into him, and I just look into players before you make your overall judgment on him, because our players shouldn't have to block off their comments as a result of their own fans abusing them. That shouldn't really happen. So even if you didn't rate him, voice you don't rate him, but you don't have to abuse him. There's a difference between abuse and not rating someone. But yeah, I think he'll improve us. Obviously, I voiced my opinions on Leno. I don't really like the guy, but I hope Ramsdale can take us to a different level, to be honest.
Yeah. Z, finally to you, mate.
I mean, look, guys, the best thing we could say is the fact that we've actually got in a goalkeeper that can replace Leno. And that was my biggest worry, that we would go into the season and have actually Leno as the number one. Now, I think someone like Ramsdale will probably replace Leno probably at a stage in the season. I don't know, it could be after the international break or whenever, but I think it will happen at a point in this season. And that's what excites me. The fact that we will see a new goalkeeper in the starting 11 that adds a bit more to the team that that Leno doesn't have, and I think it will actually change the way we play and the way we actually go into games. I feel like with Leno sometimes we're a lot more nervous, and I feel like sometimes we already know the result that Leno's going to give us. So yeah, I mean, I'm just really excited, and I just hope that he starts to play he basically starts games for us very quickly. So yeah.
Well, I think that's everything. I hope you guys found this informative to watch. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow all these boys as well. Their names are in their handles. But I think over and out.